Hi everybody. I haven't done any videos or created any content in a while, and so I thought besides just showing any books or anything that I've gotten recently, I just instead of writing a newsletter, I just thought I'd say hello and talk to you, just to kind of say hello and just kind of what's going on with me as far as what's going on with comics, if you're interested. I haven't been creating much content, as I mentioned, because I've been working a lot. Just to give you some color, I'm an accounting consultant. I'm hired by a firm, get assigned to a client, help them clean up their books, controller duty, sometimes senior account duty, sometimes a special project, what have you. And normally, when you're assigned to a client, the client wants to keep you at 40 hours billable, no more. For usually for budgetary reasons. But once in a while, you'll be at a client that has a lot of work to do. They're very happy with the work you've done. They're very confident in what you can do. And so they'll say, hey, listen, if you need to book overtime to get something done, we don't care. Right now, I'm in one of those clients. So I've been billing about 50 hours a week. And that's going to be the way it's going to be for the next 4 to 6 weeks at least. So when there's an opportunity to get paid overtime, I'm taking it. And that's really been it. And I thought about writing a newsletter, and this is not a diss on newsletters, but I barely have time to read comics, much less create content, much less write. And for me, writing doesn't come effortlessly. Not because I can't write, but because I've always been a person that's gotta do 100 revisions. And my time is limited to do 100 revisions. Maybe if I did it full time, I'd get it down to 50 revisions, but I always do a lot of revisions. That's just the way I work. So here I am. Everything is good. I'm looking forward a couple of months. I'm going to be going to SPX in Bethesda. It'll be my first time at a small press slash independent comics show. And I'm really excited. So far, special guests include Lila E., who's the cartoonist behind Precious Rubbish, and Jordan Crane, who's behind a lot of great work. They have other creators there. I'm really looking forward to seeing some people that I've gotten to know online. I'm looking forward to visiting a couple of publishers who, instead of having to order the books and pay the shipping, I can just buy the books there. And my wife grew up in that area, so we get to see some friends of hers that we haven't seen in years, and just enjoy the area. I'm really looking forward to that. I'm very excited, and if any of you are going to SPX, let me know. I'd like to just meet up and say hi, if anything. If you're following each other, we've either had conversations, or if you're creating work, I'm a fan of your work. So that would be a lot of fun for me personally. I think it's kind of a dry year, and you're seeing more and more publishers focus on reprinting classic old material. And I think because between that, the economy, I don't see a lot of new stuff coming out, at least what's been on my radar, that I've thought's been very interesting. So I haven't been buying anything for a while. Then within the last week and a half, 2 weeks, I've picked up 2 library books. I placed my mail order with Phantom of the Attic in Pittsburgh, and I went to Tate's Comics up in Broward, which is the county north of Dade County, which is where Miami's located. It's about 55 miles away, an hour drive. Hadn't been there since November of 2023. So I'll talk more about that later. So without further ado, let's talk about some books. First, what I got from Phantom of the Attic was The Horrors of Being a Human by Desmond Reed. This came out in April or May of this year. Desmond Reed is one of my favorite cartoonists. I think he's a great talent. He creates stories that, as far as being in a drawing in a unique style with good storytelling, all that, they leave a real emotional impact on you. I mean, they're like some of them are like a punch in the gut, and I think that's very hard to do in comics and do well. And I think it just takes a lot of talent to be able to tell those kinds of stories and come across as authentic. And while I was looking at the table of contents, or the set list, since we're doing a music theme, number 2 and number 3, Lefty and Memory, stuck out at me. Number 2, Lefty, is a mini comic he did a few years ago where he injured his right drawing hand, and so he taught himself how to draw left-handed. Never picked it up, so I'm glad I got it included here. And the other story I want to mention is Memories. This is one of the greatest comic stories I've ever read, period. And I've been reading a long time. I've been reading since 1974. This story deals with addiction, deals with rehab, it deals with parents and other people who you think should be supporting you but aren't. It deals with the consequences of making good decisions and also bad decisions. It really gives you the explanation of why his character is the way he is. And I said, this one will just punch you right in the gut. It's just very emotional without being inauthentic. So I'm really looking forward to reading the rest of this. I read Memories already when I first got this book, and it had the same impact today that it had 3 years ago. So I can and will highly recommend this. It's published by Microcosm Publishing, and I'm hoping that Desmond will be at SPX so I can just meet him in person and say hello and get this signed. Another book that came out from my mail order is Fist of the North Star 17. Now, Fist of the North Star will end with issue, or volume in this case, 18, which will come out at the end of September. I have thoroughly enjoyed this series. Wasn't sure that I would when I first got it, but I really liked it. It's crazy art. The story, I think, is going to end to a satisfying conclusion. Sometimes they do have the color inserts. Oh, here we go. Or like in manga, sometimes you do the red inserts. Really great production, and I'm glad that I've collected it this far. I've been reading them. I look forward to reading the final installment in 2.5 months. Next, and let me move this up a little bit, is Audrey Hepburn. Now, if you remember, a few months ago, I had reviewed an Audrey Hepburn book that was published by a different publisher, by J.T. Yost Publishing Company. That was a translation of an Italian graphic novel about Audrey Hepburn. This is a French graphic novel about Audrey Hepburn that was translated into English, and this is by Abrams Comics Art. And I find Audrey Hepburn, my wife is the one that got me into Audrey Hepburn, and I find Audrey Hepburn to be a very unique person. There's a lot of story, a lot of stuff is just made for Hollywood. And I would say the difference between this book and the book that I read before was that the other book was in color. This seems to do a deeper dive into her life, pre-World War II, her World War II experiences, post-World War II. I think it really does a deeper dive. The end papers here are gorgeous. These are all iconic outfits that she wore, that she's famous for. And this is the same as the front, but this is just beautiful. And it's funny because no matter what book it is, no matter who publishes it, if it's an Audrey Hepburn book, usually there's Tiffany blue somewhere in the book. I'm really looking forward to reading this. I think this will be a very satisfying read. I love French and Belgian graphic novels. They just have a certain style that you just don't find anywhere else. And finally, from my Phantom of the Attic mail order, and let me lift this up, is Von Baudet's Complete Dead Bone Erotica. This came out just this past week. There's a hardcover collection, and it reprints in chronological order all the Dead Bone Erotica stories. I think the most of them were published in, I think it was Cavalier Men's Magazine in the 70s. I am on record as someone that's really not that much into the underground movement and erotic comics, but I've always read that Von Baudet was one of the pillars of the American underground movement. And it was funny because I saw the back of this book. This was sealed, and I saw Shadowline. I'm like, Shadowline? I haven't seen that name in years. So when I open it up, and this is a beautiful hardcover, glossy paper, it's really beautiful. I see Shadowline Jim Valentino, and then I see that he's the one that did the scanning and the book design. So I think a lot of publishers have seen the success of the Richard Corbin books that Dark Horse has been publishing, and now they're trying to get their hands on all this older material cleaning it up, reprinting it. So, and I'm glad they are. I mean, I complain about the publishers focusing too much on that and maybe not as much on your work, but I'm glad in a way that all this old work is being reprinted for a new audience or for an audience that has read bits and pieces and can actually have a collected edition. This is gorgeous. This is glossy paper, but it's thicker glossy paper. This is all original scans. It starts off with black and white work from the early days, and then you start getting into this color palette that Von Baudet had. And I've never read this before. I hope I really dig it because I just love visually. I love this book. I really like this unique style. I just love all these warm, crazy, bright colors that you're gonna see from a certain era, from a certain artist that you're really never gonna see again. Really interesting stuff. Just, again, this is another person that has a great use of color palette, just all these different colors and somehow making it work. Just really fascinating. And the back has some back matter and some other rare items. I think this is a good pickup. If you're interested in this, you may want to check it out. As I said, it's a really well-made book. So they really went out of their way to make this a nice physical art object. So last Sunday, my oldest son, Chris is the one that's appeared on my feed a couple of times. He's 29. He's the one that got the comics, manga, anime, video game, pro wrestling gene. Much of it from me, much of it on his own. But he's the one that got that gene. So him and I decided to take a day trip on Sunday of last week, and we went to Tate's Comics and Games. And it's been there for 30 years, I think, a little over 30 years. And it's a huge store. It looks very unassuming on the outside. I mean, the inside, it is huge. And it's got everything with a big focus on Big Two, but it's got Big Two, Image, it's got tons of manga, it's got tons of figurines, it's got lots of graded comics. It's got lots of everything, except it doesn't have a lot of what they call the alternative comics section, but it's really independent small press. And I hadn't been there since November of 2023. And every time I go there, that section gets smaller and smaller and smaller, unfortunately. And I like to say that Tate's has an unofficial slogan, which is, we will never sell a book for less than retail. I mean, they're not going to rip you off, but this is not a place where you can go into the dollar bins or the half off bins and find gold in those long boxes. And my shopping discipline, just to kind of give you some nerd insight, is I like to look for a deal. I don't want to rip anybody off, but I want to get at least a fair price or maybe just find a good deal on something. And my discipline is that I will look around. If I find a good deal, I'll pick it up. If it's something that I'm interested in, but it's the same price that I can get if I order it online or order it from eBay, whichever online way to get it, then I'm not going to bother with it, because unless it has to be something that I really am interested in, and it has to be at a deal. And it's a discipline, and it ends up saving you a bit of money, but you can spend a lot of time in a store and not find anything. So when you go into a store like this, the only things that you can do is that you can do one or two things. You can see if they do have a sales section, which they did. And maybe they just happen to have something that's on sale. Like a lot of times they'll have like an old volume of the Prince Valiant collections from Fantagraphics, or like the complete, Mad for a certain number of years. And not that those books are bad, but they're not of interest to me. So hopefully you'll find something that's on sale. They do have a small sales section, as I said, and hopefully they have something there. And then in a store like that, you have to look for items that they're selling at retail, but because those items were limited or those items are just so hard to find and so sought after, that buying them at retail is still a great price. Not a lot of things fit there, but I was able to do both. I was able to find something on sale that I liked, and I was able to find something at retail that's really hard to find in the wild. And I'm sure that if I found one online in the condition I found it in, it was going to cost me at least 50% more, maybe 75% more in that condition. So it was a good deal. And these were both books that I was interested in. Um, and this is another piece of advice, and I've given this before, but when you go into a bookstore, a big comic book store, and they especially have like really high shelves, I'm 6'2". So when they have shelves that you gotta look like I gotta stick up my neck, I say, hey, do you got a footstool? And they'll give you like a footstool, and I'll stand on that thing and reach over and go through, because since they're up there, those things have been there for years. Nobody's probably gone through those things in years, and sometimes you'll find books that you just won't find in the wild. And I found a lot of things like that. So that's kind of like the way I approach comic book shopping. I don't go in and just buy a ton of stuff. I look at it and say, and like I said, it's very disciplined, and maybe it sounds boring, but I'm always very happy, usually very happy with my purchases. At the end of the day, if you're happy with your purchases, that's the end game. However you get there is up to you. That's just the way I do it. So anyway, let me show you what I got at Tate's. Now at Tate's, I picked this up on sale. This is Superboy and Legion Superheroes. This is a December 2021 hardcover reprint of a story that was first published in 1978. This was the wedding of Lightning Lad and Saturn Girl. This was when Mike Grell was doing the art on the book. This was a republication. This was on sale half off, so it was 20 bucks. And I'm usually not a person for nostalgia, but I did read the Legion during this era. I love the Paul Levis era. This is when Mike Grell doing it, and then there was a period where they had other artists doing it, and then Keith Giffen joined. But I always like the Paul Levis era. Now, the art is good. Mike Grell does the pencils. I don't think it's as good as you would normally see it, because if you look at the inks, it's the infamous Vince Colletta. And for all of you who don't know, Vince Colletta was always known as a guy that could get the work done on time, but especially with Jack Kirby, he was known to erase art so he wouldn't have to ink it, so that way he could turn around the job faster. So to the point where Jack Kirby actually had to, felt compelled to take Xeroxes of all the art he sent Marvel, so that way he knew what he drew as far as pencils, so he compare it to what was actually published. And so I think there's a little bit of that going on here, but there's enough Mike Grell goodness where it's not totally sabotaged, just like Vince Colletta, but just enough where I think you can tell that there's some scenes where Vince didn't like ink something, and sometimes a colorist came in to like force a line. Now this pinup was done by Mike Grell, so you can just kind of tell a difference. Just really gorgeous book. I had this in 1978 when I was like 13 years old. And it also has the original feature of the origins, so it shows all the origins for all the members of the time, and also talks about the Substitute Legion and the Reserve Legion. This is like a nice, I would say, a piece of nostalgia. I love this Legion run, and it seems like after Paul Levis left, nobody could ever do anything good with them. And the last run they had was with Brian Bendis, and it's so bad that nobody talks about it. And you know, Legionnaire fans are like hardcore fans, so you know that when nobody's talking about it, you know it pretty much sucks. So this was half off, so I was able to get something on sale from Tate's. So in this case, those kinds of stores, it's a good buy. Lastly, this is the item that I got at Tate's that was retail, but in my opinion is a good value because you can't find these books anywhere. This is Jim Woodring's One Beautiful Spring Day, the limited edition. And how I found this was we were about to leave the store. Chris was done and I was done. I had my Superboy and Legion Superheroes book, and we were walking through. I said, hey, let me go through some of these little shelf areas in the middle of the store, and because I always another trip of, or tip actually for going to bookstores is sometimes you want to go into these shelves that don't seem to be as trafficked because sometimes probably somebody will put something there and then it'll just stay there. So I was in one of these and I was looking up and all of a sudden on the top set of shelves, on the top row is this. And that shelf, the bottom of the shelf had to be at least 6 feet tall because I remember looking up at this and seeing this. I remember staring at this for like 10 seconds thinking, is this here? And next to it were a few copies of the non-limited edition. And I'm someone that's always wanted to get into Jim Woodring. I've never really known where to start. I wasn't sure, but I saw this, and after I snapped out of it, I just grabbed it and was looking around, and then I was gonna like buy this, and I was showing this to Chris in the back of the store. I said, hey, listen, I'm gonna get this thing. And then just then one of the employees from Taste comes by and says, oh, that's a great book. And he's an artist, so he's like, oh, that's a great book. And he was talking about the art, and he was talking about how great it was. And I told him the truth that I've always wanted to read Jim Woodring, but I never knew where to start. But I saw this. I know this book's kind of hard to get, so I decided to get it. He goes, oh, he goes, oh, it's a great book. Oh, I'm glad it's going to a good home. And it was just really positive guy. And after he left, I told Chris, you know what? That's a sign from the universe that I should buy this book. So I did check it out. It was brand new. It was sealed. It's not sealed now because I opened it. And I know that this book has been shown many times. It comes with a fabric slipcase, very nice slipcase. And the book is beautiful. And as far as it being limited, each of these books comes with a signed poster. The poster is just really beautiful. Here you go. And this is 853 of 1200, signed by Jim Woodring. Just a really gorgeous drawing. And you could see the influences to like some of those 1930s black and white cartoons, but this, look at all this detail. It's just amazing. Like, it's almost like the more I look at this, the more I appreciate just how good this is. So let me put this back without breaking anything. And then this is the book. Just really beautiful art. And this is apparently 100% wordless. And I've always been a big fan of the wordless comic book. Now, I was doing some reading online and some people complained that this version is glossy and the paper's a little thin, where the non-special edition is matte paper. But then I also read that this book you can lay flat, where the paperback has some gutter loss. So I don't know if that's true, but that's where I read for Cold Places. But this art is just really outstandingly gorgeous. And I'm so happy I got this. So I'm going to read this. And this is one of those books where you can read it if you're really not feeling it at the end and you decide that you want to sell it. I can definitely get back my money that I spent for this, maybe a little bit more. So it's one of those win-wins, but I think I'm just going to keep this because this book is so gorgeous. And I want to show you the end papers because these are the front end papers. This is absolutely gorgeous. Again, another person that really understands color and how to put all these wild, crazy colors together and make it work. I mean, this is some talent. This is beautiful. And let me show you the back end papers because I think this is even more incredible. It's just the mixture of the colors and how they work and how like these colors are a little darker. These shades are a little darker than these ones because of the shadows and the lighting. This is just really brilliant work. I'm just amazed at the artwork. So I'm really looking forward to reading this as well. It was retail, so it was expensive, but I just think it was a really great book to buy and a great opportunity, and I think there was very little downside. So I stick with my discipline, and usually when I stick with my discipline, I am rewarded. Also, I've got a couple of books from the library. I'm lucky. Miami-Dade Public Library System is actually pretty decent when it comes to graphic novels. I was able to read a lot of like Chris Ware, Adrian Tomina, Ozumo Tezuka, a lot of great stuff from the library. And I still use it as a resource. So I picked up a couple of books. First one is Stone Fruit. I think this came out in 2021 or 2022. And the reason why is that Lee Lai, who's the cartoonist behind this, is having a new book come out later this summer called Canon. And it looked interesting, but I've never read any of their work. So I'm checking Stone Fruit out so that way I can read it. And if I like Stone Fruit, then I'll check out Canon. If I don't like Stone Fruit, then I know not to check out Canon and I can move on. But let's see what they have. The second book I checked out, and it was earlier today, is Tongues by Anders Nielsen. Nilsson, excuse me. Anders Nilsson. And this is pretty much well-regarded, interesting book. So I'm just going to tell you that if you live in a city that has a public library system, check out what they have, use them. The more you use them, the more they can substantiate their funding, the more books they can get. So use them. I do whenever I get a chance. I just have so much to read that I don't use them that often, but in this case, I wanted to read some new stuff. I've been finding that a lot of the stuff I've been reading lately has been very old, 30, 40 years old, and it's classic stuff. But you have to read new stuff because it makes the old stuff fresher, and then you're still current, so you're not just stuck reading books from the other century. So those are two books that I got. I'm not going to put them under a microscope because I haven't even read them yet, so I don't know what I'm looking at. And that is it. I'm thinking about doing something like this, like one subject a week that I can talk about, as opposed to doing a newsletter. As again, I'm not dissing newsletters at all. I think there is a important place for them. But again, the way I write, I just need to do a lot of revisions, and it just takes a lot of time that I don't have. Even though there's a lot of setup and worrying about the lighting, and I do take notes as far as what I'm going to say. I find this easier. I find it easier to run my mouth, to be honest with you, than it is to sit there and write and cull and edit and trying to make it as reader friendly and readable and not make it a chore. I'm just admitting my own weaknesses here, which is fine. So I'm going to probably try to do this. Target is once a week, not just comics, what did I buy and all that kind of thing, but maybe more almost like a video newsletter. Like I know there's a lot of people like Comic Crack and a lot of other people that do kind of like that kind of version of show. They talk about a subject or, hey, this is what I had in the past week. And they usually do it live. I think I'm a little chicken to do the live part yet, so I'm just going to do this pre-recorded and see how it goes. So anyway, until we chat again, thank you very much for your time. Keep buying comics. Thank you for your support. And if you have not been totally bored, please recommend this to somebody else. I'm not trying to monetize this at all. I'm just trying to help spread the word. Take care.